Play.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whatever time it is in the world, wherever you're tuning in from. I am already on my third radler, or shandy, or panache, I think, as they call it in various other parts of Europe. So things should be just about okay for now, but they may well deteriorate, but I won't be front stage by then. We've just had Arthur Fees booking his place in the final at the expense of Van Asch. Did the match surprise you at all? I mean, Feast was obviously the heavy-ish favorite, although I think he went a set down. What were the characteristics of that match that stood out for you, Damien?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, these two guys know each other so well, so it's always going to be maybe a little complicated to gain the upper hand, even if you have it, just like Fields has. It's kind of new for him, I guess. Probably last year, Van Asch would have still been the favorite to win this match. So, yeah, it's not obvious. But all in all, I think it was pretty similar to the match that Fields had in the group stage against Nardi. Because, of course, against Stricker, it was very different. Against Koboli, he just totally dominated. But against Nardi, it was like this, where Luca, by the way, Luca Van Asch, Luca Nardi, so it makes sense. When the Luca in either match is just more steady, but Fields has these like 5-10 minute sudden bursts of intensity. And then they can't really compete with that anymore. And especially the third set as a whole, where Van Asch has 2 set points just before the tiebreak. Of course, missing that was quite crucial. And then Fields is just unplayable in the third set tiebreak. It's absolute God mode. He's hitting his forehand at like 150 kilometers an hour on average, which is just sick. And that's how he takes the third set. Of course, the fourth eventually got kind of choky, and like it was really tense. It was like fourth match point maybe that Fields converted. But I guess all in all, he was still able to like put himself in the position where he was the one who had these match points. Van Asch didn't actually have a set point in the fourth set, so he was always ahead, even though he also gave Van Asch quite a few points away in that tiebreak. But a little nervous at the end for both. But again, that's something that often comes in with matches between people who know each other very well, that once you actually get to that stage, to that big stage, and you have to compete against the other guy for a lot of money, a lot of let's say spotlight and recognition, it's not going to be easy to find that best level in you. We might see the matches with brothers, for example. This year, I watched live a match between Ulysses and Dali Blanche, and I talked to Ulysses after the fact, and he said that was the worst experience that he ever had on the tennis court, to play against him. That he always felt like, oh, maybe it's going to be fun to play him in the future. They actually have a huge family, 4 tennis players, 3 brothers and 1 sister. And he said that, in the past, he thought that maybe it's going to be fun to play against him. But then he actually got onto the court, and it was so hard to find that intensity. And of course, it's a more extreme example of brothers. But like Fields and Van Asch have grown with each other through the French junior system, right? Then actually the European junior system as well. They were always, at the top of their age groups. They played the Roland Garros final against each other. So I think it's totally normal to have some sort of like more nerves in the fourth set tiebreak. Was it such a good performance from Fields that I think he must win the final now? Not really. I do think that tomorrow will be really competitive, regardless if it's Stricker or Medjedovic.
So we've got a poll on YouTube. Do get voting in that. When you said a Luca, well, you didn't say Luca, but I'm adding the article there. A Luca in Chilean Spanish means 1,000. So I don't know what that's worth. That's the first thing I thought of, because in Chile they call it so 1,000 pesos, I think it is. So that would be 1 Luca. Anyway, I digress. Some good comments in the chat as well. Yeah. It was a bit of a choky affair, as Gene touches on. Nice to see Keen as well joining us for this encounter. The poll, by the way, not Damien, but
the way you said it very distinctly made me think of the nationality as well. Yeah.
Survey. Although I think I've used that joke a few times before, and I'm sure I'll use it again in 2024. Is suggesting a kind of 60-40 A fair, and sometimes these polls can be very skewed because, of course, if you have 10 people that all think 60-40 in favor of Stricker, well, then you get 100% of voters going that way.
It's also 8 votes, right?
It's also 8 votes, yeah. But by the way, considering the match hasn't started yet, that's not too bad for a next gen semi-final. Sometimes it takes us an hour before we even get 8 votes. So yeah, 64. That actually seems to be though about right. I mean, maybe you make Medvedevic the slight favorite.
Yeah, the bookies actually made Medjedovic a pretty significant
Oh,
favorite, but
okay.
has since evened out. Like it's not fully even. He's still the favorite according to the odds to the market. I would say that's probably right, but I don't have the full confidence that it's going to be Medjedovic. He was in God mode in the groups, but it's not like he didn't have his own usual, just drops in sort of mental fragile, well, not drops, but like mental fragilities, and yeah, generally didn't lose it a few occasions. So I think in a match against Stricker, it's just going to be really serve based. So I would be fine with a 50-50 breakdown, on the votes. I think Stricker is just the casually bigger name, which actually is a bit of a well, if you think about it, right? I mean, I know he's just won the fourth round. I mean, he's just made the fourth round at the US Open, but it's actually Medjedovic who has the two ATP semifinals. Stricker doesn't have one. I guess there's just been more hype about Stricker in general since just maybe a couple of years back, even. So I think it's also like the name that people are more likely to vote for when they see a poll, and they're more familiar with Stricker.
True,
By the
but
way,
for
they're going to be
me,
starting up now.
okay, but for me, Medjedovic is
Uh-huh.
definitely the bigger name. I mean, 10 letters, Stricker's 8.
Uh,
There we go. On that bombshell, I will go backstage. I'll leave a score on the screen, and Damien can talk you through. There's some things about Novak's love child in the chat, and
yeah,
I'll let you talk about that.
about the love child. Yeah, I actually have to say that Medjedovic doesn't get as much hype as I thought he would be. Maybe more so, I'm basing this on, let's say, Twitter and the engagement that tweets about him get. But Medjedovic is really not that popular. I feel like I actually had to sort of make him popular in a way, among my Twitter followers and that sort of group, the challenger fans on Twitter. Whereas Stricker was already popular. I think Stricker, after winning the French Open 2020, winning Lugano when he was ranked 874, and also 874 in 2021, and also these back-to-back ATP 250 quarterfinals in 2021, when he beat Hurkacz in Stuttgart, in Geneva. He also had that run. I think Andujar maybe stopped him in the quarters. And of course, that was also really impressive to make back-to-back ATP semifinals and on different surfaces as well. And basically, what I'm trying to say is that I think the hype for Stricker was built somewhere along the way, whereas for Medjedovic, it is like slowly appearing, in my opinion. And yeah, of course, the Djokovic story is big, but I actually didn't really feel it. That after the fact that we learned that Djokovic is paying for his whole career, basically, we didn't even see that sort of spike of engagement interest on Twitter. But if you're good enough, you're gonna get there anyway. Some would probably say, I could imagine some saying that this is due to his nationality. I mean, a large chunk of the Djokovic fandom says that because Roger and Rafa are Spanish and and Swiss, they get a lot more good publicity than someone from Serbia. Personally, I don't know if I really have an opinion on that. Maybe it's different in Poland as well. I mean, for years we were sort of culturally dependent from the East as well. So maybe in other countries, in more Western traditions, even though we're now definitely more Western than Eastern, we probably I could see some other things. I mean, as a person, I generally am against discrimination or praise based on nationality. Obviously, that's not something we fully control, where we are born and etc. But yeah, I think maybe there's an argument there to be made. I don't know, because I was definitely surprised on a few occasions that Medjedovic actually doesn't get as much hype as I thought he would. But yeah, that could be about to change. Of course, he had 2 ATP semifinals this year. If he won this event, this could also be a huge stepping stone in that regard. He probably won't really care about that, right? He's such a feisty individual already. I mean, he has so much drive in him that I don't think it really matters for him to be recognized. I think he probably has this mentality that, well, he's going to be good enough for people to recognize him anyway. And that's true. I mean, I do think that even at this event, he really showed what he's all about, and also how good he can be in relation to all of these guys. We expected some serve botting, and the first 2 games are over in a flash. So I guess we're getting what we were promised so far. Yeah, feisty spirit is definitely true about Medjedovic. Some people it can rub the wrong way. Personally, I've spoken to Hamad twice, and he was really nice. I definitely like him as a person as well. Although I know he, on the court he can be quite, well, I don't want to say like aggressive, not towards others, but like, yeah, just frustrated and angry all the time. But I think he's one of the guys who, off the court have a very different personality to that. And I don't mind determination, on the court, even if it's shown in that way. I think it's good to see that people care. And he definitely has a lot of good competitive drive in him. Recently has been shooting himself in the foot quite a lot. So yeah, it's great for him that in this event he has been able to sort of control that. And even though he loses a 2-sets to love lead against Mikkelsen, he still wins the tiebreak despite the calf cramping. And also against Van Asch, that steal of the third set, that was really good. Right now he falls into a bit of trouble out of nowhere, love 30, but there's an ace down the tee that helps him to stay alive. I think he's probably been hitting like 80% of his aces down the tee in this event, by the way, which, is fine. Especially as he now finds an ace out wide, just as I said that. So you had never watched for ATEC before, really, Keen? I'm surprised by that. But I guess you started watching the Challenger Tour like maybe not, maybe just a touch too late in order to see his Prague run or maybe his Heilbronn run, right? Maybe you weren't like following on a daily basis there. But yeah, I mean, for ATEC, of course, the former junior world number 1, definitely still a bit of hope there. But in the spring of 2022, he used to have this ridiculously good forehand, which he was kind of struggling to control and sort of learning how to play with it. But right now he lost it after all of these injuries. But yeah, this quarterfinal Nuevas Palomas, especially considering how he got there, which is by saving 5 match points in the opening round of the qualifying, that's still a positive for him for sure. And I still think he can be very promising once he gets all of that intensity and fire in his game back. And it was a good development as well for him. One last thing about him, but that because in the juniors the forehand actually used to be his weakness, so delivering something there and finding one of the better actually aggressive forehands on the Challenger Tour in the spring of 2022, that was raising his potential so much. But anyway, Medjedovic actually managed to hold. He had like a +1 forehand winner that he had to fire in order to get that. But other than that, he basically served it out for himself. I was shocked to see Sevastova back, says Jean. Yeah, I read that she's going to be back, but... actually, wasn't it this week, maybe? Andorra, right? Yeah, she's still playing in the event, I think. Yeah, I remember it was something in December. I actually haven't watched her since the comeback yet. This week has been kind of hectic for me. Like, I've mostly been able to watch the NextGen finals and some challengers, but it wasn't enough. There wasn't enough time to watch Andorra. I'm probably gonna watch some of these 125s on the women's side. The ones that come after Andorra. I can't remember what it is, but it's like Angers probably and something, right? next weekend and the week after that. But Andorra so far I haven't seen. But yeah, Sevastova still playing, is currently a set up on Basols and looking to make the semis. And that would actually be a Cornet-Sevastova semi, I guess, unless they're playing in a different order, which is pretty crazy. Yeah, Cornet-Sevastova if Sevastova wins. Stricker with some more serve botting to get himself up to 30 love. This could be a bit of a match like this where we have, let's say, 15 minutes of very serve-oriented play and then a tiebreak, and that repeats itself like 5 times, which is fine. But that also makes me think that the fact that Hamad was in God mode in the groups might not matter all that much, right? Because the match could easily get like a little bit random. Would you like to see more of these courts without the doubles lines? I mean, it's impossible, right? Because, well, at all other events we have doubles competitions. So I think it's only possible when you have just singles, and that's the only event on tour. Is there anything that I'm forgetting about that doesn't have doubles? I don't think so, right? What do we have in terms of like special events? Davis Cup, of course, there's doubles. ATP Finals, there's doubles. United Cup, there's doubles, or at least mixed doubles in the current in this format. Yeah, I guess it's not a possibility at any other event. It used to be, right, like fairly popular, I think, fairly popular. I mean, it would appear sometimes in the 90s, we've seen courts like this before, but yeah, I just don't think it's really doable. Yeah, Gene, that's basically my idea about it. Just a few big points here or there. Maybe something like Hamad just won with the backhand down the line. But of course, Stricker was already 40-15 on this occasion. But yeah, stealing a point like this could be so important in this match. Yeah, it's not going to matter because the next return is in the net. But we are expecting a very tight match here, regardless of the scoreline. Really, it could be a 3-setter and still be very tight. There's a graphic on Medjedovic's first serve placement. I guess they're just trying to show us that a lot of it is very close to the lines. Lots of aces down the tee, but also on the ad side, he still has a decent out wide serve. I guess it's only on the deuce side that, well, it exists, but it doesn't give him quite the same force and threat. Well, but just to sort of maybe speak against that stat against that graph, which of course he didn't see, but Medjedovic sets him up for an easy point with an out wide serve on the deuce side. So yeah, that delivery, that huge cannon that he has there can definitely do it all. And to his credit, it is backed up by the massive forehand as well. And speaking of that massive forehand, it gives him the next point. No, actually it is out from Stricker. So yeah, just a serve plus 1 forehand. I'm sorry, but I can't tell you who will win. I mean, if I knew, I wouldn't be watching this. That if we knew who would win, the sports industry as a whole wouldn't exist. Basically, it seems to be a very even match. They're both extremely good on serve, and there likely won't be too many breaks. So, yeah, it should come down to a few points here or there. German says that Stricker is a little bit slow. I wish we got Medjedovic in that base camp competition, right? To sort of maybe put him against a guy like Stricker. But Stricker, I think, to me, doesn't really have that much of an issue with speed. I mean, he's definitely not the best player fitness-wise, physically. But on the sort of first 1-2 steps, he is actually pretty quick, in my opinion. And very often he kind of cheats out of these positions. Like when he's pushed wide, he's just gonna slam it, And yeah, he's actually talented enough to keep pulling it off. But both of them have like similar body types, so I would assume that Stricker Medjedovic in the base camp thing would probably be posting similar, just similar results to Stricker. But Of course, that's a bit of a guess. I don't think he would be at Mikkelsen's level. Medjedovic moves better than you'd expect with his build. Yeah, but that kind of goes for both of them, I guess. Tough to say how that would translate to base camp. Yeah, I think Stricker might actually be the faster player in terms of like, yeah, just the first 2 steps. But that, I guess that wasn't really tested at base camp, or maybe in the 10-meter sprint. But the change of direction, the star drill, I think that could have been better for Medjedovic maybe. Although Stricker actually did pretty well. I mean, he was higher than Van Asch on most of them. So I think for both of them, it's just such an easy sort of comment, easy negative to throw out that they have to work on their physicality. And I think after like every single Medjedovic or a Stricker loss, and I write something about it on Twitter, and there's like 3 people who are, he has to work on his fitness, he has to work on his physicality. And you're like, yes, but at the same time, is it really why he lost this match? Is it really why he the main thing that he has to do in a week in order to start getting better results? I think sometimes we just overrate these a little bit. I think both of them are way better athletically than they seem of their builds yeah. And Stricker also going toe-to-toe with Tsitsipas for 4 hours at the US Open, right? That was pretty impressive given how well he kind of looked tired, but it never really showed up in his play. Medjedovic, of course, was cramping on his calf here in the opening match against Mikkelsen. That wasn't ideal. But anyway, we get the first tiebreak. We were expecting that, and we get that. So Stricker apparently has now hit the most aces in the history of the NextGen finals. Nakashima has 60 and Stricker has 61. It doesn't say though if it's only this edition or the previous one, but because if it's only this, if it's both editions actually, because Stricker played 2 of them, then it's not as impressive because that's his 8th match and Medjedovic is just 13 behind him. And Medjedovic is, well, of course, playing his first NextGen finals edition. Smart dropper from Hamad. Yesterday I had this other sort of recording podcast with someone else, and basically we were talking about about Medjedovic a little bit, and about that backhand drop shot that he's been trying to implement, and how it's not like perfect yet, but it will help him in the future for sure. Just because sometimes he might have an issue with like finding a way to kill the point. I think especially in that recent Menchik-Danderit clash, when Medjedovic was just slamming forehands cross-court at Menchik and everything was coming back from, let's say, the end of the second set onwards, it was especially clear that he doesn't really have a way to break out of these rallies. And that definitely in the future could be a weapon to let him do just that. Stricker followed up with his drop shot, and he also won the point. But now he is actually engaged in a rally at 1-all. And he will force the error out of Medjedovic, makes him run to the backhand corner, stretches him wide, and Hamad makes the error. So 1-2 down, Medjedovic, still no mini breaks in the tiebreak, but that could have been a chance, that could have been a point that he might win. Gut feeling something is wrong with Stricker, says German. Yeah, we'll see. You might be right, of course. Yeah, in the Nardi match, he had the issue with his thigh, which is still bandaged. It just wasn't bothering him in the last 2 matches. There's some sort of a Red Bull Formula One driver, I guess, on my screen. I don't know. I'm guessing they showed him, and he had a Red Bull Racing cap, but I wouldn't know who that is. So another drop shot from Medjedovic, and yeah, maybe you're right, because for this one he actually should have made a run for it. So maybe you're right about that, because the first one I actually don't think he had anything to run for in that first point of the tiebreak. But here Stricker attempted to chase it down, but he actually didn't, right? He like stopped midway because, yeah, he couldn't fully commit to it, I suppose. At least this time he's actually moving right in, let's say, either direction when he has to like lunge towards the ball. Against Koboli, that was the main issue. But yeah, maybe Hamad has spotted something there and is going to torment him with that drop shot a little bit. We'll see. Yeah, of course, John, I'm gonna hit the end stream button when it's done. Anyway, still no mini breaks despite the two drop shots that Stricker couldn't track down. Who has the better tiebreak records? As Gene. Oh, that's actually a question that, of course, I don't have ready for you. I guess it's also going to be hard for me to find it because, well, I would have to count it manually since these guys have been playing mostly, on the Challenger Tour and some ATP tours. Something that I can look up very quickly is what their tiebreak record is on the main tour, and I guess that's all we're going to do for now. But after this point, where Stricker misses this serve out wide, so it's a second serve on 3-all just after 18 minutes. So this match has been actually, lightning fast. But yeah, we expected that. Ooh, that's some sick defense actually from Medjedovic, and he drop shots again, but this time into the middle of the net. But I think, yeah, you're right that he spotted that Stricker might have an issue, just going forward. I mean, sprinting to the net. So he's trying to expose that now. This year on the ATP Tour, Stricker is 7-5 in tiebreaks, and Medjedovic is 3-5. I guess it's really small sample size. Even the match against Korda, right, gives Medjedovic 2 lost tiebreaks and one won one. So I guess it's just 3 out of 8 of his tiebreaks come down to that much. In the group stage, I would have to check as well. I don't have it all that memorized. Generally speaking, it would seem that Stricker should have the better tiebreak record just because Medjedovic has been more fragile mentally. But who knows? Anyway, for all, still no mini breaks. We see people from the Fields box coming down to watch this match. Of course, he is now awaiting one of these guys in the final. I think that was Grosjean and Bruguera, in fact. Second serve for Medjedovic. How will he handle this? It's really deep, and he could have done more. I mean, he had the open line with the forehand, and he's going to pay the price for it, it seems, or maybe not, actually. Jesus, what a point. It's out, so still no mini break. Yeah, and Medjedovic seems frustrated, but yeah, it was out. I mean, he won the point, right? But anyway, yeah, that was crazy. There's a net cord for Medjedovic, which allows Stricker to get to the net, and his smash is not good enough at all. Maybe it's the Phi as well, because he didn't put his the power from his legs into it. And then Medjedovic catches the drop volley. He tries to pass Stricker, and then eventually Stricker's volley goes out, goes long. Oh, that's a sensational shot. And this is exactly what I was talking about earlier. What? I mean, it's in, right? Yeah, of course. The scoreboard was bugged. Yeah. When Stricker is pushed wide to his forehand corner and he has no time to recover, he just slams it down the line. And he's so talented that it works out like 90% of the time, it seems. And that was just a sensational shot. So still no mini breaks, although the last 2 points have felt like they easily could have gone either way. So 5-all. And yeah, this time actually a pretty slow return from Medjedovic also pushes Stricker wide to a similar position. And Dom also decides to go for it. But I think that was actually an error. I think he could have gotten there way more easily than on the previous point. I don't think such a high risk, low margin approach was really a necessity here. And it's going to be Medjedovic getting the first mini break, getting the first set point. And let's see if he slams an ace. Let's see what sort of serve it's going to be. It's a good serve down the tee, but Stricker is in the point at least. Medjedovic a little cautious, doesn't want to go forehand down the line, even though there was a space for it. And he wins the point with the backhand drop shot again. Indeed. This time Stricker tracks it down, though. There's some more normal movement than in the beginning of the tiebreak. But the only thing he can get to Hamad is just, a slow slice-ish ball. And Medjedovic, to his credit, actually had to find a pretty sharp angle on the backhand. So, had to keep his nerves settled, let's say. And that's the set for Medjedovic. And as we said, I mean, this was super close. This was just 1 point, literally. So let's see. But yeah, there were a few points in this tiebreak that easily could have gone either way. So it's not like it was just this one mini break, 1 point that Medjedovic can snatch from Stricker. I mean, Stricker could have had a mini break earlier, and the other way around as well. But overall, yeah, Medjedovic has been playing a pretty mature match so far. Like he's doing what he should, and just using that backhand drop shot when he saw that there might be some issue with Stricker tracking it down, actually winning the last point despite Stricker making a run for it. But still, I think that was a very nice set as a whole from Medjedovic, and he gets something from that as well. Body language after losing the first set, yes, German. I absolutely agree. I mean, Stricker sort of sat down on the bench and just had his head down. Maybe that's related to something physical as well. Who knows? But yeah, he didn't seem like, okay, I'm gonna get him in the next set. He was like, ugh, Jesus, I expected that. I'm down the set. I think NextGen finals could work wonders for Hamad's mentality in the future. Yep, I agree. Absolutely. I mean, the guy has been in a bit of a nightmare patch just before this, losing the match to Menchik, 3 match points, losing to Hassan in Basel, losing the one against Korda, which was so important for him, given that he could have broken the top 100 and it was an ATP 250 semi. All of these, like, he was definitely, I don't want to say against Korda he was the better player, but like he really threw it away. He didn't even make Sebi win it in the last 2 tiebreaks. Of course, against Menchik, he had such a big lead. Menchik was also struggling physically, and then he lets him back into the match. So if he actually wins here, if he even makes the final with in a format like this, where there's so much clutch play required from you, and also given the fact that in the group stage he was just able to overcome all of his mental demons, that could be massive. And I think as a whole, this NextGen Finals campaign is making me really excited for Medjedovic 2024 campaign as well. Not that I was unexcited earlier, but even more, I suppose. Ooh, that was quite wild from Stricker. I don't think he was fully dedicated to this forehand. I mean, he was kind of just standing there and trying to hit it without bending his knees. But let's see how how serious this is. Do you think Erhard has much potential? I remember watching him beat my Australian and was impressed. Honestly, I would have to watch him more. I watched him a bit during the clay season. Obviously, that match against who was it? Koboli at the French, which was really good. But yeah, I would need to get some more sample size on him. Honestly, definitely a fairly exciting ball striker, and someone who I wouldn't really expect to stay at the ITF level forever, to have some time in the sun, let's say. But regarding like long-term prospects, I definitely am a little undereducated on him. It's a nice volley for Stricker. I mean, this is a guy who even on one leg could get through many service games, right? And I don't know if we have him on one leg here quite yet. We'll see. Wow. I mean, right now we definitely kind of do have him on one leg, but he still wins the point. I mean, he hits a ridiculous half volley and he slices the ball, and like, there's no full footwork from him. He's like really cheating it, but he is winning the points anyway. touching his thigh right now, the bandaged one. We have a close-up on it as well. So I think the TV crew has also picked up on it. And yeah, let's see if he can keep going. And so far, I mean, he's won the game. If you have weapons like Stricker, sometimes you can win. Well, I don't know if the match, but yeah, maybe even the match. Right now he's just standing there and firing the return and then the forehand kill. It was a little similar against Koboli, where anytime Koboli would just send him to a corner, Stricker wouldn't really get there. But if he was just able to stand and shoot, then it was fine for him. I don't know if we're quite in the same situation here. Maybe it's just some weird frustration with losing the first set and coupled with that thigh. But yeah, generally Sticker's event has been really weird, honestly. Like the fact that he had that match against Koboli, where he looks like he might not even be able to play, maybe to the end of the groups. Then he actually blitzes Nardi in 54 minutes and then loses to Fields in a high quality affair. Which surface do you think will be Hamad's best one? At first it was clay, and I think that was mostly because his footwork was so poor that he needed a lot of time to set up. But now that he has sort of, done good work in this regard, it's kind of hard to tell, right? I mean, the serve, the forehand, they should work anywhere. I think maybe something like this, like a combination of fast and slow, is generally what suits him. Like when you have, for example, Mauthausen in Austria, which he won at the beginning, which he won in May. You had an clay court venue, so you have the slow, and then you also have the fast from the little altitude that there was there. It's like 300 or 400 meters, but you could see it in the pace of play. In March, he won in Székesfehérvár in Hungary as well. And you have the indoor venue, which makes it, relatively fast, but at the same time, it's clay as well. And this in Jeddah also works, right? Because it's a pretty slow surface, but you still have the indoor conditions. And I think maybe something like this is a good combination for him because he's going to be able to hit through everything anyway. But actually, if we get him at a court like, I don't know, Basel, or let's say if he played Ismaning or Ortisei, which of course he didn't on the Challenger Tour, but still, I don't think he would be that effective there actually. Like he'd still have the serve, just like he did at Wimbledon, but I think he's better at this sort of combination when he also has a lot of time to prepare for his massive power on, off the ground as well. So, yeah, I talked about this on the stream a few times as well, that Jeddah is a lot slower than Milan, but actually it's kind of hard to find a player in the field who really hates it, because all of these, like Medjedovic or Stricker, they have the big weapons and, they maybe would hurt even more if the surface was faster, but at the same time, they also enjoy some additional time on the ball. So, and they can hit through anything anyway. So maybe something like this, like Zhizhen Zhang, for example, loves it anyway. Anytime you have this fast slow combination, or like one aspect of the conditions is fast, one is slow. So I think Medjedovic could be a similar type of player. So yeah, like a slow indoor court, faster clay. That's what I would maybe guess. But generally speaking, he should be good everywhere, right? The fact that he qualified for Wimbledon this year was very impressive, especially as he actually had back issues in the third set against, well, not in the third set, but in the third match against Billy Harris, and I think also maybe in the second round. I can't remember that much. Physio is there already waiting, says German. I actually didn't notice that. Probably I was checking the comments in that moment, but yeah, it seems like Stricker asked for the physio. I don't know if the physio will come before the break though, because this is a great return from Medjedovic. And another one. And well, it's a good reaction, but Stricker, he served and then he just never really had the intention of even trying to track it down. Oh, actually, it's the end of the match. Yeah. So he actually has retired. There's not even going to be the physio visit. So I guess this is a very short stream then, guys. Yeah, Keen, maybe some other day then, because I actually replied to you about this, but I can talk about it more again, but maybe some other day then. Yes, Sviatoslav Gulin. That's a weird story. I actually barely heard of him as well, but yeah, he's like a pretty decent ITF performer. He's playing his quarterfinal right now with Pedro Martinez, but he's already down a set. But yeah, that's a run out of nowhere for sure. And yeah, Stricker has retired, so that's gonna be the end of the match. Unfortunately, the bandaged thigh that he gets, the issues that he had against Nardi, it came back at the end of the event for him. But we get a fantastic final. Medjedovic against Fields tomorrow. The two best performers of the event so far, definitely the two undefeated players, and we're gonna have a stream for that as well, guys. So don't worry about that. I think for the moment it's probably going to be me and Vansh tomorrow for Medjedovic and Fields. So make sure to tune into that. Thank you for this 40-minute run, and thanks to all the guys in the comments, of course. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Then I'm gonna end the stream in a second. Sorry that it had to end this way, but well, at least we have Fiz Medjedovic to look forward to tomorrow. At least it wasn't, in the final. And yeah, shame for Dom, but he was a bit unfit going into the event and unfortunately couldn't compete anymore. Hopefully for 2024, he's going to be all set. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow then. Thank you as well.